Hi, I'm Molly Phillips, and I'm in the biomedical 3D printing class. The section is 380A1. And I'm here to present my project, which is a fidget stick that is designed to help people quit smoking. So to start off, just some purpose and objectives that I came up with when I started is I wanted to mimic the physical actions that are associated with smoking a cigarette without actually doing it. So things like how someone holds it in their hand, how they ash it, how they put it out, the physical act of taking it out of the pack. Just a lot of addiction is not all chemical, it can be behavioral as well. So the idea being if you can mimic the physical actions, it will eventually help you quit smoking. And another design goal was to make it just feel good in your hand. Throughout the project I had some different people hold them to see if they felt good, got opinions, changed the design, things like that. I also wanted a part that, and a complete part that looked good, obviously for aesthetic reasons and for use, daily use. I also wanted the components to be replaceable. They are a little bit small, so they do have potential of breaking. Additionally, part of it maybe go in the user's mouth, and I wanted that to be replaceable and removable to be cleaned. So moving on to, and ultimately the goal of this project is to help people quit smoking, as I said before. So to begin with, I wanted it to be, out of different materials that I wanted to test were the Ninja Flex and the PLA and the ABS. Here was my first attempt at this. I ended up using the Objet to print these little guys because they're very small. This section here is actually 2.5 millimeters. And it is designed that small because originally there was supposed to be a bearing that was supposed to go on here. I ended up changing that later in the design, but I'll talk about that later. So originally I printed it in 2 halves, and the idea was that they were going to come together, and these caps right here would secure them together along with the bearings, and then these could go in the end and create an extra rotating feature for the cigarette type fidget stick. These were just some design iterations I did. Here's the bearing I was talking about, actually in the hole as here. And the idea being that there would be 2 little rods that you could spin it between your fingers. And then there's also a spinning feature here that originally had the bearing in it. You can kind of see it in there. But I ended up removing that due to the 2.5 millimeters being way too small for printing features. Also throughout the project, with the Ninja Flex, I did a few different design iterations with different diameters, different lengths, just to see what felt good and what would print well. These are a little bit tall relative to their diameter, so these are about 40 or 50 millimeters tall by 12 millimeters in diameter, so the printer did have a little trouble sometimes getting up to those heights. So here was the final product that I ended up with. This is just a little case that it comes in. This is the actual thing that I'm holding here. And inside are 2 fidget sticks that look like this. So here's the cap, the removable cap, and there's a hollow chamber in here that allows air to pass through, kind of simulating this sucking on a cigarette. It sounds weird. And these are the little knobs that go through the bearing. So you can't see the bearing inside of here, but this allows this whole thing to rotate, which I'll show you in a minute. And this is the spinning feature at the bottom with the modified bearing actually not being a bearing, just being 2 PLA parts with a loose tolerance. So inside here, there's 2 little guys. They spin like this, or however you want to. They're weighted a little bit on one end. It's kind of whatever you make of it. This has a thing here, blah blah. You can play with it however you want. A little bit, here's an image of all the parts that are actually make up this little stick here. So we have the main core with the hole for the bearing right here, bearings right here, it fits in the hole, and then this cap goes over this top, and as I mentioned before, there's this little chamber in here that allows air to pass through. And then in the bottom of this guy, there's a hole which fits this guy in there. And before I secured this into its fitting in here, I placed this bearing that I mentioned made out of PLA, which is a loose tolerance, and then I put a Ninja Flex little ring around it for feeling reasons. Here's the cutout of the knob and the rod that run through the center of the bearing. This guy still has its little rim on it, but this is just a small piece made of PLA, and then the two end stops are made of Ninja Flex. The material, the Ninja Flex, is actually glow in the dark, so at night you can see it. Part of it kind of will light up, I guess. Also the colors, I chose just to kind of alternate throughout the design to go dark white, dark white, dark white, just for aesthetics reasons. The things that ended up being the cool parts about this were the bearing. It feels really nice in your hand, it's fun to play with. Something that happened on accident was that it became weighted on different areas, depending how I printed it, where I printed the bearing, what material I used. So I kind of refined that. And then the nozzle is replaceable, so it comes off pretty easily. Ideally, there would be some replacement parts included with it. And for germ's sake, if the user does put it in their mouth, they can clean it. And additionally, I know that the idea is that you don't have to buy multiple of these. There are 2 in the pack. Smoking is a social thing, so if your friends are also trying to quit, you could give them one as well. Ideally in the future, we'd send out more for free if this ever became a marketable product, for distributing them basically and spreading the word. Some lessons I learned while printing. Originally my part was pretty small, and it turned out that that was really great because I had to print a lot of parts. As you can see, this is kind of just a bag full of all the design iterations I went through. Additionally, printing vertically, these really small diameters really does not work well. The printer just doesn't have enough time to dry, and it's really wiggly. When it prints, I sanded this one down so that it looks like that. That is not how it looked when it came off the printer. This guy was an accident. I thought I had my design finalized, and I went to print 3 final models, and I decided to make the diameter 0.5 millimeter bigger because I knew I was going to be sanding it. So in turn, this other extrusion that I had done from it became larger, and the cap didn't fit on it. So always check your measurements before you print, especially before you do a long print. Luckily, this is only about a 3-hour print, so not too much time lost, but it could definitely get expensive. Always double check the measurements. This guy was another accident. I did not put glue on the plate, and he moved around a lot, and you can kind of see the jagged edges, but just not a very clean part, not sandable. Didn't really do anything with that, I just ended up reprinting. And this guy was just not enough material was extruding from the nozzle for some reason, and it just came out where the inner surfaces were showing. And thanks for listening.